What is farming?
What a stupid question. Farming seems obvious, but it was probably a million years from the start of cooking to the first actual farming. Why? This slide shows four events associated with agriculture: plowing the field, sowing the grains ready to harvest, and using a sickle to actually harvest. Two of these events do not require farming: the ripening of the grain, which could be wild, and the harvesting, which also could be wild grain. Only plowing and sowing demonstrate farming, representing people getting involved with the whole process, therefore staying for the entire time in one place. Farming started independently all over the world at different times based on different products. Wikipedia lists 10 sites, with the Fertile Crescent, part of the Middle East, as probably the first. Some of the other sites are China, India, Siberia, Mesoamerica, and other New World sites, Africa, Madagascar, and the Pacific Islands. The sites were very diverse. The major factors were what was available and how easy was the transformation from gathering to farming. What are the drawbacks? Anthropologists often considered the lives of the hunter-gatherers as simple, leisurely, with a varied diet. Farming in one place meant reduced food variety, losing natural vegetation and game, vermin and other pests, food spoilage, periodic famines, and possible attacks by hostile neighbors. Who wants any of that? What would make people want to settle in one place? What about a spot like the Garden of Eden, that land of milk and honey? Lots of fish, wild grains, fruit, animals easy to hunt and later to domesticate. Other tribes might like a place like that as well. Better claim a spot and settle in. We'll focus on the Fertile Crescent, where evidence is most abundant, plus, according to Genesis, where the Garden of Eden seemed to have been located. Various semi-permanent sites were established before farming. Ritual sites in Turkey had complex monuments, but no farming. A site on the Sea of Galilee where grain harvest took place goes back 23,000 years, including stone sickles, likely for harvesting the wild grains. Multiple edible plants were identified, including grain, barley, almonds, figs, and olives.
In the 1920s, archaeologist Dorothy Garrod discovered a semi-sedentary village at Wadi an-Natif in Judea, so she called the builders Natufians.
These early villages had circular pit homes, which probably were used for a period of harvesting and processing the grains and other crops. These were abandoned and rebuilt for the next harvest season. Over the centuries, sophistication increased. Mortar and pestles were found, sickles which improved the harvest with less waste. They probably used wood and then bone. Climate change meant growth with wet and warm weather, and abandonment with colder and drier weather, which meant food disruption. Did the Natufians invent farming? They could have, but no compelling evidence has been found. These sites were not permanent, but rebuilt every year. Harvesting, but farming was less likely. Spots where farming might have been started may have been abandoned during droughts and forgotten about. They did advance into the Neolithic period. The most famous of the permanent Neolithic sites was Jericho, one of the first fortified cities, long before Joshua, with about 2,000 people. The first settlement was the Sultan's Hill, about a mile from modern Jericho, from about 12,000 years ago. This was a good trading spot near the Dead Sea. They likely harvested salt and traded it for other foods and goods. Finding obsidian here, which is from Anatolia, is proof of trade taking place. Actual farming was started later, after it began in Mesopotamia. Did farming and civilization start because of beer and bread? They were around early, so maybe. We'll explain why this was likely. Join us on Food, History, and Mystery to learn more about beer and bread.